Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right. Welcome to WordPress Accessibility by Digital Accessibility by WeCo, featuring our special guest speaker, Jerson Lackdow from Desert Wing Design. The information found in this presentation includes tips based upon the experiences and opinions of Digital Accessibility by WeCo staff and Desert Wing Design staff and should not be construed as legal advice. Regarding the development and implementation of digital accessibility practices, it is best to seek the advice of qualified legal counsel. The information in this presentation is the property of Wehrman Collaborative LLC, so please ask us before distributing this information by contacting us at accessinfo@theweco.com. This slide shows a title of the presentation and includes WeCo's logo and the International Association of Accessibility Professionals, IAAP, member logo. Your instructor for today will be Jerson Lackdow, a developer at Desert Wing Design LLC. But first, we're going to go over a bit about who we are. WeCo is a company of digital accessibility professionals with a mission, putting you in touch with subject matter experts or SMEs who live with disabilities. We are members of the National Association of Accessibility Professionals, IAAP, and provide our own rigorous training requirements for people. This slide includes the IAAP logo. It also shows a WeCo accessibility specialist using screen magnification software in an accessibility audit. And a little bit about what we do. WeCo offers manual accessibility audit services that can help your team understand which areas of your project do not meet accessibility requirements. We also provide customized recommendations on how to fix the issues. Our testing and recommendations are based on the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, also known as the WCAG. We also offer usability testing services, which provide insights into how our testers living with disabilities view your project by having them complete tests to verify that your website or software truly works for users living with disabilities. WeCo accessibility testers live with one or more disabilities that fall within at least one of the 4 primary disability groups: cognitive, mobility, hearing, and sight. We also offer various consulting packages and training options on topics relating to accessibility and usability. And our WeCo University e-learning portal provides on-demand accessibility training courses for both individuals and enterprises. And this slide shows a photo of a hand pointing at a tablet device with people watching in the background. This slide features somebody using a Braille display, I believe. Sorry about that. And before we get started with the presentation, just a few housekeeping tips. Remember to mute yourself. If there is noise coming from your microphone, our moderator will mute you. And if you wish to use the chat box, please be mindful that the drop-down designation for everyone will broadcast your comments to the entire room. So if you wish to reach us for assistance, please select Ellen, moderator. Accessibility accommodations must be placed in advance through the registration process, so please note that we cannot fulfill accommodation requests placed today or through the chat box. And now, without further ado, I'd like to switch it over to Jerson to present and talk about WordPress accessibility.
All right. Thanks, Ellen.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar on web accessibility. My name is Jerson Lackdow. I am the head of development for Desert Wing Design, a web design company based in Tucson, Arizona. We create stunning websites using an accessibility-first approach. So in this webinar, I'm going to share some ways on how you can make your WordPress websites accessible for all users, including those with disabilities. And as an overview, here's how the talk is going to go. So first, I'll share some accessibility tips that you can apply on any WordPress website. And actually, you can apply most of this even on non-WordPress websites. Next, I'll share how you can navigate the accessibility resources that already come with WordPress. And then after that, I'll share some remediation options and tips or strategies that you can apply to your WordPress websites. And then we can go ahead and answer any questions that you might have. And I'd like to begin by getting to know you and at least give myself an idea about today's attendees. So if you have any experience or currently creating or managing at least one WordPress website, can you please type one in the comments? And if you have any experience using WordPress at all, if you don't have any experience using WordPress at all, maybe you're trying to explore your options for a content management system, please type two. All right. Okay, thank you. Okay, so WordPress is the most popular CMS or content management system available today. So it's not just one of the leading CMSs, it is literally the dominant one. It powers over 43% of all websites on the internet. And with this number, we can imagine how large of an impact WordPress has on the accessibility of the web. And the question now is, how can we make sure that our WordPress websites are accessible? So to put it simply, WordPress accessibility is affected by three main factors, the theme, the plugins, and the content. And these three all boil down to one common factor, which is the person creating the site and its contents. Now let's get down to these tips and find out how we can improve the accessibility of our WordPress websites. So tip one is theme choice. So the theme we use in WordPress normally dictates the overall style and design of the website. And by choosing an accessible theme, we're already off to a great start. And if you're starting out just want to use the free ones available, you can search the WordPress repository for accessibility ready themes. These are the ones that have just been reviewed and vetted by the WordPress accessibility team. But just a word of caution that just because a theme is marked as accessibility ready doesn't mean your website is automatically going to be accessible. So it just means that it has passed the minimum standard set by the accessibility team. On the screenshot, you can see some of the accessibility ready themes that are available in the WordPress repository. So if you're new to web accessibility, using a theme like this can already cover some important features that you would otherwise have to set up or even code yourself. So things like skip links, responsiveness, and keyboard accessibility are usually covered by these themes. Tip number two is plugins. The plugins provide additional features that are otherwise not available out of the box in WordPress. So there are literally thousands of plugins available. It can transform your WordPress website from a simple CMS to a powerful website that can do a lot of things. So plugins can give your site new features like forms, page builders, or even a full e-commerce solution, and a whole lot more. So on the right side is a screenshot of a few popular plugins in the WordPress repo. But these new features can also be a source of accessibility issues on the site. So some developers don't consider or don't even know about web accessibility. So as best practice, the thing to do is to review and test the plugins that you install. And this other part is going to be about content. So as you remember, we have three main factors affecting accessibility: theme, plugins, and content. So for content, let's talk about the heading structure. Headings provide a way for users to easily scan the content of the page, and it also helps both humans and robots or software alike understand the structure of the content. So the thing to remember about headings is to use them in a logical order. So you can check the screenshot on the right, where I have an example of how a logical heading order is implemented. Heading level 1 or H1 is commonly used for page titles, and heading level 2 or H2s are commonly used for sections to indicate a subtopic. And if there are deeper subtopics, then we use H3, H4, H5, and up to H6. And we should not skip heading levels going down. So headings should also not be used to style your text. So it tends to disrupt the logical order of the headings and might not make sense in terms of content structure. So if you want to make a normal text bigger than the surrounding text, you can style it in the editor by adjusting the text size or applying custom CSS. So either way, WordPress makes it easy to do so. Tip number 4, alternative text. So one of the foundations of web accessibility is that content should be perceivable. There may be times when a person does not have use of a particular sense, and it may affect how they browse the web. So for example, an unsighted person is not able to see a photo on your website, but by adding an alternative text or alt text, you allow them to sense what the image is about because you describe it to them. The WordPress also makes this easy for us, as shown on the image on the right. When you insert an image into a page, there's a text box where you can type the alt text of the image. And this is where you can briefly describe what the image is to someone who might not be able to see it. And decorative images don't need alt text. Just leave it empty if the image is purely decorative or doesn't add any sort of meaning on the page. Meanwhile, there's a different approach for linked images. Instead of describing them, you tell the user where it goes when they click or tap on it. Videos should also have closed captions and transcripts. Audio should have a transcript. So, for example, if you're managing a podcast website, make sure the episodes have transcripts. Interactive elements like buttons that use icons should have proper labels. Otherwise, screen readers wouldn't know what they are for. Tip number 5 is color contrast. So sufficient color contrast between the text and the background improves its readability. It also ensures the visibility of focus outline and icons. You can use any color contrast checker to see if there's enough contrast between the background and the text color. But in our company, we've gotten used to using WebAIM's color contrast checker for any quick check, and it can tell you right away if the color combination you're using passes the guidelines, and if not, you can make the adjustments right there until you get the combination that works. There are also browser extensions available that can do this, like Wave. Number 6 is form accessibility. Forms are probably one of the most important components of a website, yet it's also commonly full of accessibility issues. It doesn't really need anything too complex. And as you can see in the screenshot, just provide clear labels and instructions as necessary so that your users know exactly what you're asking for. Some website designers and developers remove the labels and just use placeholder text, and this can cause major accessibility issues. So when selecting a form plugin to use, go with the plugin that prioritizes or even just considers web accessibility. And when it comes to field labels, you can indicate if a field is required or optional. And as best practice, implement form validation even before the user submits it. Also provide clear error messages. So this helps make sure that the info that they entered is correct and exactly what you're asking for. Tip number 7, keyboard accessibility. Keyboard accessibility allows users who can't or don't use a mouse to browse your website. And one of the most important things to remember about keyboard accessibility is that all interactive elements should be accessible by keyboard by pressing the tab key. And to tell the user where they are on the page, there should be a visible focus outline around the element where they're at. And as you can see in the animated image, there's a pink outline around the element when it is in focus. So if you have a smart TV or a game console, you normally use your remote control or your joystick to move around and select the different options. And then when you move your joystick or your press your remote control keys, you see an outline around the element that is currently selected. That is also exactly how keyboard accessibility on the web works. So in WordPress, some theme and plugin developers disable this. And if you ask why, I can only answer from my own perspective from 10 years ago when I thought that they looked ugly. So it's embarrassing, but I didn't know I could customize it or that it was a very important accessibility feature. So this is one of the features you should be looking for when you're in the process of selecting your theme. If they have a demo, check it out, go to the page and start pressing the tab key and check if you can see a focus outline around the buttons and the links, or if you can access all the interactive elements on the page. Tip number 8 is for website testing. So the most practical way for you to see if your website is accessible is really by doing the test yourself. And there are two ways to test. First is by using automated tools like Wave, Axe Dev Tools, Lighthouse, or any similar tools. There are also WordPress plugins that can do this really well, like Accessibility Checker. And these tools are really helpful in pointing out some accessibility issues that are otherwise very tedious to do manually. So, however, these tools can usually only uncover 20 to 30% of the actual issues, and sometimes it could even be false positive or false negative. So that is why we do manual testing. It's not one or the other. We have to do both. So with manual testing, you go to the actual page and test for accessibility. You can do keyboard testing, pressing tab, and then you can also use it in combination with a screen reader. If you are on a Mac, it already comes built in. It's called VoiceOver. So just enable it in your accessibility settings. It's also available in your iPhone. And if you're on a PC, you can download and install NVDA. It's a free screen reader software. You might need to get used to the controls, but each software has documentation available and it's easy enough to learn the basics. You can also consider having a person with disability test your website to get some real-world feedback. And I personally find this really insightful, and this is what I can say. I really learn a lot in the entire process of creating a website. I just learn something new every time. And if you prefer the audit to be done by professionals, so companies like WeCo, of course, offer web accessibility audits. And this is a great option if you have a large website or if you want a more thorough review of your website. So let's go to WordPress accessibility resources. The WordPress ecosystem has a lot of resources available for us to make websites accessible. And as I already mentioned earlier, we get a few default themes that are accessibility ready out of the box. There are more available options if you'd prefer a different design. And not to mention the paid ones available if you're looking for something really specific. You can also actually build your own accessible theme from scratch or from a starter theme. And WordPress provides guidelines on how to do that. So basically, using an accessible theme already gives us a great start. The new block editor is also an improvement in terms of accessibility over the previous classic editor. So you get elements like headings, images, navigation, and others that are accessible out of the box, and others that give you the capability to make the content more accessible. And if you're using an accessible theme, that's also ready for full site editing, like the most recent theme available at 2024. You also get the skip links automatically when you have a main region in your theme. And as an FYI, skip links are the first links that your keyboard focuses on when you press the tab key for the first time on a page. So it skips all the links in the main navigation and it goes straight to the content. And of course, there's also the different WordPress plugins related to accessibility. Although I would caution you when searching for accessibility plugins, because there are plugins that claim to fix accessibility issues automatically on your website, and these are called accessibility overlays. So these solutions can often actually make the experience worse for people who actually need the accessibility features. So just be careful and read the description carefully. And of course, if you want a more comprehensive guide straight from WordPress, they have something that's called WordPress Accessibility Handbook. So you will learn more about the accessibility tips that I mentioned here and more. It has also a list of recommended tools and plugins that you can use to help you along the way, such as when creating your own accessible theme. So there are also information about how the accessibility team conducts testing to improve WordPress, the themes, the plugins, and if you're interested in contributing to WordPress accessibility, everyone's welcome to do that. There's also information about that. So you don't even need to know how to code. So let's go to remediation options. And earlier I discussed testing your website for accessibility. And now after you do that and you have all this list of issues, now what's next? So this is when we proceed to remediation or fixing those issues. Now this isn't about what fix to apply for each issue. That's probably for another session. But what I'd like to share are some options and tips for implementing the remediation. So there are some issues that are very simple or easy to fix. And if you have a few headings, like if you have a few headings that are out of logical order, you can just fix them right out on the page, and that should be it. But how about multiple issues across several or all pages of your website? So that's when we apply prioritization. We normally prioritize the critical pages first. So critical pages are the pages or sections that get the most traffic or interaction from users. You can find out which pages or sections are critical by checking your analytics. And usually that's the home page, or if you're running a campaign, that's probably a landing page. And since these pages get seen by the most number of people, it only makes sense to fix issues on these pages right away. And you can also apply this to sections of the site that are present in all pages, like the header and the footer. We should also fix content with issues that significantly impact people with disabilities. So even if it's not considered critical content on the site, we still give it a high priority to ensure accessibility across the site. And to maintain accessibility, we encourage you to conduct regular audit and remediation, especially if you publish content regularly. And of course, if it comes to a point where you can no longer do it yourself, or if the tasks look too overwhelming, it's best to seek professional help from web design companies that focus on web accessibility. And that's it for this session. I hope you learned something from what I shared. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer as best as I can. And I believe also someone from WeCo could help answer questions. Here are the resources that I mentioned.
Thank you so much, Jerson, for that very informative presentation. I will keep an eye on the chat box for questions, and I'll also send out that list of resources to everybody in a follow-up email at the end, as well as a link to this recording. But in the meantime, do we have any questions? Oh, I see a question from Toby. Can you talk about the troll lawsuits that are happening right now and how businesses can react on the tech end? I don't know if Jerson would like to take that or if anybody from WeCo wants to talk
Yeah,
about
I
that.
think I defer to WeCo about the legal matters.
So this is Sue Ann, the director of the Access team at WeCo, and I'm not currently up to date regarding those legal related issues. So, how about you, Ellen, from the public relations? Anything that you've encountered on through social media?
I know there's a lot um going on right now, and I believe, if I remember correctly, we do have some blog articles that I can look to see if I can pull up while we answer some other questions from resources from WeCo. I'm not sure. We don't have any information regarding WordPress websites specifically. I know a lot of lawsuits come up with websites that use overlays. Jerson talked about that in his presentation about some overlays hindering users' experience, especially people who use assistive technology. But um, other than that, I will look to see if I can send any blog posts as resources about that. Um, we also have from Miriam, do you have suggestions for how to get or make a practice or test site?
Okay. There are a few options for that. First, you can use your own web hosting account. So you can create a subdomain and then install WordPress there, and then you can test your website. If you have an existing website that you'd like to test, but don't want to affect the experience of any user currently browsing your website, you can clone it to a staging website. That probably depends on the kind of hosting that you have. Some hosting companies have this available in their interface where you can easily create a staging version of your live website. You can also install a server on your local computer, something like I forgot the name from Local by Flywheel, DevKinsta, and XAMPP, XAMPP. You can also use services like InstaWP. So you can spin up quickly a version of WordPress and then you can test there. But I think if you want to test a live or a website that's maybe your own website and you want to test it for accessibility or you want to do some remediation practice, the best advice I can give is to copy it on a staging website or clone it. You can probably contact your web hosting provider for help on that.
All right, thank you. Sure. So next up, we have how aware are people in the US about the requirements of accessibility? Justin, I'm not sure if you want to add to this or if the accessibility team has any thoughts on this, at least from what you've seen from that perspective.
Okay. Audio now unmuted.
I could comment on that, Ellen.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah, this is Marie with Client Relations, and it really varies. Some people are very aware of it and they try to keep their websites accessible and they are very up on what the legal issues are. And with WeCo, we run into all kinds of things from one end of the gamut to the other, with people that are very knowledgeable, to people who come to us and they've never heard of WCAG and they just really don't know anything. So it really varies.
Accessibility testing field. What about certifications / bootcamps? EP
All
center.
right. Thank you, Maureen. Just sending a
From
couple of
Ellen
blog
Gaffney,
posts I
everyone.
found that are somewhat related to the drive-by it lawsuits. Next up from Kelly, we have where can I get more information that is easily understood by a non-programmer about ARIA?
If you're looking for courses, you can check out Udemy. They have, I think they have something there about ARIA, and also the documentation from Mozilla.org. They have some explanation about that, why ARIA basics, and it's pretty easy to understand. I guess it depends on how techie or not techie you are, or if you understand the jargons. But basically, you need to have some at least some basic understanding of the terms that are used in HTML and in markup languages. So I think that's a very good resource.
WeCo has some stuff in their library too, on our website.
Perfect. I will see if I can find those so I can send those in the chat. But in the meantime, we also had a follow-up question of that. What is the best way to break into the accessibility testing field? What about certifications, boot camps, and so on? I will give a quick plug that I'll talk about a little bit later, but WeCo does offer accessibility training. We have WeCo University that provides accessibility training for organizations and individuals. But is there anything, Gerson or Maureen or the accessibility team, anything else you'd like to add? I'll also, at the end of this presentation, provide a few more WeCo's resources that I can share. But
From Kelly Lugo to everyone, thank you.
Gerson, do you have any recommendations?
It is about Robin's question.
This is Kelly's second question. But the best way to break into the accessibility testing field, what about certifications, boot camps?
I think
That
the
sort of
one
thing.
from DQ is a good resource for that. And also, of course, the not certifications, but just resources from, of course, from the WeCo website.
And there is the International Association of Accessibility Professionals, if you really want to get certified through that. All of our accessibility team has gone through that. And I think A11Y has a boot camp for accessibility training as well.
And for networking and meeting with other accessibility professionals, I'll also share a link to join our Accessibility Twin Cities meetup. That's a virtual meetup that meets every month, and so you are welcome to join those as well. Following up with Robin's question, if you were to choose one website builder and theme to develop a new accessible site for a WordPress beginner, what would that be?
Okay. For a beginner, it actually depends on what kind of website you're trying to create. But for a beginner, you're probably want to create something like your own personal blog. So I would recommend using the default ones. The default theme, the new 2024 theme looks really neat and cool compared to the previous ones. And also stick with a the native editor of WordPress. So it's pretty accessible on the
Well,
front end.
moderator to everyone, accessibility, Twin Cities meetup group, https,
Oh,
//
oh, perfect. Thank you, Jerson. Any other questions before we start to wrap up? Thank you for all sending all these great questions in the chat box. And if you prefer to unmute and ask a question, feel free. For WeCo, can you talk through how you would go about doing an accessibility audit, how long you would take, and any price range for doing this? Is that something we could give a little bit about, but perhaps we could, if you'd like to send me your email, Robin, directly to me. I think client relations could follow up with a more detailed information about that, including the price range and stuff like that. But do the accessibility team, do you want to talk a little bit about that process?
Sure. So with the audits that we do, we verify the accessibility of a website or an app, depending what you want, and we verify it against WeCo's standards of access, which include WeCo's exclusive standards, the WCAG now 2.2 level A and level double A, and the refresh of the section 508 standards. And then really quick, as part of the audit that we do, the package would include a recheck of the issues that were found in the initial audit. We give clients up to 6 months to fix the issues, and then up to 6 months to fix the issues, and then we go back and we check them just to confirm that they have been fixed. And then it also comes with a consultation where we go over the report results with you.
Thank you, Sue Ann.
Sure thing.
I just sent over a link to the webpage about that if you'd like to take a look. And if you would like to request more information, I'll send over an email, accessinfo@theweco.com, that you're also welcome to reach out to for more questions about your specific site. And it looks like we also had a follow-up from Rashmi to Kelly about the your on WordPress Accessibility Day, your topic related with ARIA, and a link to that. So thank you for that resource as well. All right, it looks like we just have a few minutes left. I will go over some more details about WeCo's resources, but feel free if you have any other questions to send them in the chat box in the meantime. All right, so we do have another upcoming webinar, WCAG 2.2, What's New? So that'll go over the WCAG 2.2, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, the newest edition, and the changes that were made since 2.1 and the new guidelines. And that will be on Friday, January 26th at 2 p.m. CST. And for more information about WeCo's webinars, check out the weco.com/accessibility webinars. We are also pleased to announce that expanded versions of our webinars like this class are available on WeCo University Accessible e-learning portal. And if you're interested, you can contact WeCo Client Relations at accessinfo@theweco.com to learn more. And other free resources, if you'd like to learn more from WeCo, you can visit our website at theweco.com. Our website includes a free accessibility library, free recorded webinars, accessibility events like that meetup and our webinars, an accessibility blog, and more. You can also reach directly out to the accessibility team again. That's at accessinfo@theweco.com, or by giving us a call at 855-849-5050, extension 1. And lastly, if you'd like to join our accessibility blog email list, it provides you with a free and easy way to stay on top of accessibility. A few times each month, you'll be notified of our latest blog entries related to accessibility and how people living with disability interact with IT. And they cover everything from accessibility experiences of our testers living with disabilities and our staff members to the latest legislative updates. So these tools that make it easy for you to keep accessibility at the top of your mind and to remember what to implement what you learned today. So an email symbol is shown on this slide. And that is all. Thank you for joining us. Again, any questions, you can reach out to accessinfo@theweco.com or 855-849-5050. And any other questions, or Jerson, anything you'd like to wrap up with?
Thank you, everyone, for listening in and for attending the webinar. And also thanks to WeCo for inviting us over to present this topic for everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jerson, for your great presentation and for answering those questions. Thank you to the accessibility team and Maureen from Client Relations as well. And thank you to Desert Wing Design as a whole, that this presentation was very helpful. So thank you so much.